I've always thought Remember the Titans is a great movie. Not only does it have an interesting storyline and fun characters, but it is a study in character development. All of the main characters make important choices. They have to decide what their values are, who they want in their lives. They have to stand for something by the end of the film. The main leader, obviously, is Coach Herman Boone. He's a black head football coach who comes up from North Carolina to Alexandria, Virginia in 1971. It's their first year integrating the schools. Everybody's a bit charged up after the death of a colored teenager by a white store owner the previous summer. So it's a big change. It's a lot to take in. But he shows right off the bat that he is up to the challenge. He comes into his first team meeting to meet his new football players and shows there will be no favoritism. It's going to be a rough ride, and they realize that right off the bat. He tells them, "This is not a democracy, it is a dictatorship. I am the law." He is authority compliance 100%. He demands perfection, he gives orders, he expects them to be followed, and everyone is told, get in line or don't play, pretty much. During the camp, he gets creative with his methods. He forces them to room with a teammate of a different color, and then when they still ignore each other as much as humanly possible, he forces them to spend time every day with a teammate of a different race and then report back to him until everyone has met the entire team. This still doesn't seem to work, even though it's making steps in some areas. So they go for a 3 o'clock run in the morning to the Gettysburg battlefield. He shows them, a field where 50,000 men died fighting the same racial fight, for the most part, that they are that day. And tells them, I don't care if you like each other, but you will respect each other. And it's after this that things start to change. You see the team start to bond, they start to work together, they start to move forward. When they come back, it's much of the same. He leads by example. He doesn't get intimidated when there's a brick thrown through his window, and he continues to move forward. He tells the team, we're going to do this, rule your universe like titans. And there's no other word for his leadership other than transformational. He takes a team that hate each other, and he brings them together, and they become a 13-0 perfect season team, first runner-up for the national championship. And not only that, by the end of the movie, the entire town is behind him, supporting them as a team, supporting that mix, that cohesive unit that they have built. Now, whereas Coach Boone was a drill sergeant, but very effective in that situation, Coach Yost, I believe, started out as an effective leader. He had the whole backing of the white community. He had all of the white players ready to sit out a season. They wouldn't play for anyone but him. He had 15 championships under his belt. I think he was very effective in that situation, but once things changed and everybody integrated and there was so much hostility going around, that he was no longer up to the task. But in that situation, he became a very middle-of-the-road leader. He used an S3 supportive style. He didn't do conflict, and he seemed very risk-averse. He would pull people aside. He was trying to be funny, throwing jokes around, but he was joking with one half of the team. He was still, raised with the racial prejudice, and he wasn't quite ready to completely give that up, because that's just how he was. That's how things had always been. But eventually, he starts to get to know people, and he starts to work, and he wants to win. He wants his boys to do well, because he knows that's their future. That's how they're going to get into college. That's how they're going to get noticed, so they can go forward in life. So he gets better. He offers Coach Boone some creative plays, starts saying that, the boys need to have some fun or they won't put any points on the board. But he does this prematurely. He starts making suggestions for how to liven things up and how to let the boys have fun before they put aside their differences. So in this way, he's allowing for a continuation of the segregation, for the tensions that they're facing. it's only when they come to a game that he realizes is being rigged, that false penalties are being called in the hopes that Coach Boone will lose the game and they can fire him and put Coach Yost back in charge, that he takes his stand, he picks his side, and he becomes a team leader. He is focused on winning, getting the job done, doing it right, as well as taking care of his team, all of his team, not just the white players. He is focused on everybody now. But from there, he goes to an S2 coaching style, and he's working with everyone. But you don't see complete buy-in until right at the end, during the state championship game, where he has to ask Coach Boone for help. And he tells the team, "You've taught this town to trust the soul of a man rather than the look of him, and it's time I join the club." And it's at this point where you see them, they're swapping advice on the side of the field, they're working together, they're collaborating, rather than snapping at each other when things go wrong. I think the real mark of Coach Boone's transformational leadership is that so many of the team members emerged through referent power and by earning their expert power to become leaders within the team. There are quite a few, so I'll mention the top 4 here. But obviously there's Bertier, Campbell, and then I think Blue and Louis Lastic. Bertier was the white captain for the Hammond team before the integration, so he came in feeling like he had legitimate power. He was already team captain, people should listen to him. But his counterpart, Julius Campbell, was having none of it, and of course those two were roomed together, and they were very confrontational. Not just with each other, but with other teammates. Finally forced to talk to each other because of the mandate that, the 3-day practices stand until you meet everybody and you get to know your teammates. Their anger forces honesty. And, between Bertier calling Campbell out for being selfish and Campbell calling him out as being a laissez-faire leader, he's not calling out his white buddies to, block better for the black quarterback. Nobody's really playing. Everybody's just kind of going through the motions. Bertier tells Campbell he's got a bad attitude, and Campbell responds with a fantastic quote, which is, "Attitude reflects leadership, Captain." And the next morning, they go out for the run to the Gettysburg battlefield, and the following night, during a late-night practice, Bertier finally steps up and he calls out his best friend, who is an offensive lineman, and he calls him out for a really poor block. And the very next play they run, Campbell steps up and he demolishes the receiver he was taking it easy on beforehand. Those two, take that first step that night, and very quickly a friendship forms. Once everybody's going to put aside what color you are and base it on how you play and what your character is, they move forward fast. And then you see later, with the help of Bertier and Campbell, Blue and Louis Lastic call a team meeting. This is after they've come back from camp and the real world starts to set back in. Friends, family, and society starts to pull the team back apart instead of them being able to mix together, because everybody else didn't have that experience. Everybody else wasn't forced to set things aside and get to know people. So they look down on that, and they're telling them, no, this is not what's supposed to happen. Blue words it pretty well when he says, we came together up at camp, cool. We come right back here and the world tells us that they don't want us to be together. And we fall apart like we ain't a damn bit of nothing. And he tells them, the coaches aren't going to be there for us forever. We've got to figure this out ourselves. So they hold the meeting, they put everybody on the spot, and they hold them all accountable for their behavior and say, we cannot step down now, we got to stick together. I think that's what spurred the dancing warm-up routine and why everybody was so willing to go along with it. But they managed to stick together, they hold, and eventually the community comes around to the right way of thinking. So it's inspirational to see that somebody did this in that day and age. But we need more leaders like Coach Boone who can take a mindset of an entire town and completely turn it around.